This didn't happen at the Academy Awards. That's good enough. Thank you. Okay, so that's 11 with, I'm sure we missed, I know we missed things, but that's okay. Let's talk about 12 a little bit. You know, 11 was acute. As you've heard, many of you have heard me talk about the fact that the patient was in the ditch. I mean, there was a terrible accident and they were laying in the ditch, dying basically. So the ambulance shows up and gets the patient out of the ditch, puts them in the ambulance, drives them to the hospital, saves their life, and now we go through rehab. Ultimately, the goal being where that person in the ditch can get out and run a marathon. And that's what we work on. Think of it in two stages. Acute problems, things that needed to be addressed immediately, and chronic problems. And Jim, I've got to tell you in a lot of ways, I don't want to understate what got done fixing the acute problems. Made $8 billion hole, climbed that mountain, right? Pretty tough. I'm almost wondering if the chronic problems are even tougher, because they involve cultural issues, many of which are inside of our state, and many of them are chronic problems that plague the United States of America itself. Workforce development. I cannot tell you how many employers say, I can't find workers. Now, how can you have 8.5% unemployment and have, what's the number today, Rich?
76,500.
76,500 job openings in Ohio. If I walked in here today and said that I've got a company coming in and bringing 76,500 employees, even Bill Cohen would have stood and cheered. The fact of the matter is we have to align the workforce opportunities with our education system. Now that means, Jim Petro talked about this earlier, thinking of education as a K through 20, not just a K through 12. Now, the workforce programs in the state are so mixed. How many do we have, Rich? 70? You come on up here. We have, what, 77?
Yes, sir. 77 programs.
Come on up here, Rich. Up here. Just, oh, okay.
That's right. We have 77 workforce programs in 13 agencies in the state of Ohio. Many of them operating in independent vacuums. There is some cohesion, but generally none. No overarching strategy. Very little cooperation amongst them. And that's just the state programs. It doesn't include the local stuff. And what we need to do is realign all of those 77 programs so that we have a strategic allocation of our resources, so that there's no duplication, that we're spending money in the right places for the right kind of training that we need for the most flexible workforce in America.
So let me just stand over here, Rich. This is a very, very big issue and a very big problem for the country. We are graduating kids from high school who are not sure what they want to do. And it's possible, according to Bob Stummers, to start stimulating them the 4th, the 5th, the 6th grade with ideas about what they might want to become. And you begin to guide them towards that. Secondly, we've got to stop destroying vocational education and convincing mothers and fathers that if a kid wants to be in manufacturing, you can talk them out of it. You know, if a kid wants to work on his car at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and you're sitting in class, can't wait to get out learning nothing, why don't you let him work on the car at 10 o'clock in the morning? And begin to teach him about math and why you need to know what to charge, and about English, about why you need to learn how to advertise. We need to start connecting this education system with job opportunities. And it is happening in some places, and we are working to bring about more of it. Nationwide insurance. To give me an example, they bring in 10 high school employees. I said, how many employees it's last week. How many employees you have here? 8,000. So why don't we bring 1,000 Columbus high school kids in? It was like in that movie Eloise. You remember when the door opens and the neighbor, the older lady, the neighbor was there with her dog, and Eloise just passed out because she thought that the neighbor had died? That's what his reaction. I thought he was going to pass out. I said, okay, how about 500? Why don't you bring 500 kids into Nationwide for one afternoon a week? The schools don't pay you because you're teaching them practical things. and you don't pay the schools because you're doing kids a favor. We'll have to think about it. Now that's pretty bold. But if we got them to take 100, we got every business in Central Ohio to take 100, you're starting to get a change. And you start teaching kids about what their future can be, so you're now beginning to align education with opportunity. The 2-year schools. You know, the average graduation rate from our 2-year schools, and I'm not going to name this institution, but we have 30,000 enrollees in one of the community colleges in our state. They graduate 3,000 people out of 30,000. That doesn't cut it. Community colleges have to be light on their feet. They need to be able to respond to the challenges. Last week, I met with the presidents of all of Ohio's universities, along with the presidents of the community colleges. And I asked them to do a number of things that I will get into. But one of the things we want to do is to use those community colleges to respond quickly. They have the capability to respond quickly to the needs that employers have. And we need to get employers to start telling us what they need. So in other words, they say, well, I don't have any employees, but when you ask them, what do you need? They won't tell you. So we need to run a program through the Roundtable, the Chambers of Commerce, the local development agencies, to start getting forecasting. Tell us what you need. Mark likes to tell a story about a business down in Springfield called Code Blue. I needed them last year when my house flooded from an ice dam. They load these houses up and they figure out how to get the water out and dry the floors and restore. Every single kid that graduates from Clark State is guaranteed, in that program, is guaranteed a job at Code Blue. You start giving kids and painting them an opportunity, a real job opportunity, which means forecasting from companies, training based on what those forecasts are, guaranteeing kids that if you get out of there, or promising them an excellent chance of getting a job, you begin to eat into this problem of 76,000 unfilled jobs. It's a change of culture. Businesses have to work with schools. Community colleges and universities have to work with the workforce. It's a comprehensive program. I brought Rich into my office so that I can hold him accountable every day in terms of getting through all this, working with Michael Colbert, working with Jim Petro and Wayne Struble, Ben Kanzik and Don Lazalier. This is a focus of ours. Now, how far can we get? Let me be clear. Scott Milburn and I have talked about this. This can't be fixed. It can only be improved. The work will never be done. We have pockets of where this works great. The Timken companies brings kids in from high schools to work in the Timken company. When they get out of high school, they go to the community college. If they want more, they can go and get an engineering degree. They're hiring these kids. More co-op programs, more coordination, more risk-taking, and getting businesses to invest in our children. It's a cultural deal, folks. I sometimes say, why do I take this stuff on, Jim? This is like, where's the thanks in this one, right? But if we can start aligning that education system with those jobs that are out there, we'll lead the country. Very difficult.